A gentle hush falls over the night sea. The waves glisten under a moonlit sky, and a soft voice hums above the waters, the siren's song. It is an ageless melody, alluring and tender, carrying with it the wisdom of countless ocean tales. As you listen, the sea itself seems to speak in that voice, saying, "Come, traveler, drift with me. I will guide you across my waters and through my stories." In the embrace of the ocean's calm, your journey begins, a mythical dreamscape where each wave whispers a legend and each breeze carries the sigh of an ancient ocean soul. Every culture, every shore, every song ever sung to the water, they all belong to one endless body, dreaming in different tongues. And before we begin, if you find peace here in the temple, subscribe for more nights like this and explore the other stories waiting beneath the waves. When the story ends, tell me in the comments below, did you prefer the sound of the rain or the whisper of the sea around the voices? Your thoughts guide what dreams I bring next. Now, close your eyes. The night is young, and the sea is older than memory. Breathe in, slowly, like the tide coming home. Hold, let moonlight rest in your lungs. Exhale, and listen to what remains when the world grows quiet. That hush you hear between waves is the first language. It murmurs through shells and ship ribs, through coral spires and the velvet silt where coins sleep. The ocean dreams aloud, and in its dreaming voice, there are harmonies you have always known, the lullaby your mother hummed without words, the wind that used to press the curtains like a shy visitor, the rhythm of your own heart, ebb and flow, shore and return. Tonight, I, Nyx, keeper of night, witness of water, walk the edge of that sound. I touch the sky and it scatters into constellations across the water, each star laying a silver road upon the skin of the sea. The Aegean is a black mirror veined with milk-white light, and islands rise like sleeping animals, Paros and Naxos, Delos and tiny unlisted names, whose chapels smell of beeswax and salt. On an outcrop no map bothers to mark, time breathes up from the stone, and the wind cinches the night with the faintest scent of fennel and smoke. A dog barks once, distant and small, then even the shore remembers to be silent. Come closer, child of the shore. The tide remembers you. You drift into the dark like a leaf. The surface recedes above you, an arched ceiling of glass, silvered by the moon, and all the loudness of day peels away in soft strips. Each layer you pass leaves one labor behind, the day's words, the day's faces, the day's small brave. Down here there is only breathing, and the quiet exchange of light and shadow. Your shoulders loosen, your jaw unknots. The heart inside your chest learns the patience of tides. These voices belong to beings made of longing. The sirens are here. Here, they sit among ragged flowers on a green rock island, where the earth has cracked into terraces like ancient steps. By day, their feathers shine like hammered gold. By night, their wings drink moonlight until they look carved from the very sky. They were not born as hunters. Once they were girls with quick hands and laughter like pebbles tossed in a well, companions of Persephone, whom they loved as you love morning after a long winter. In the first spring of grief, when Hades took her and the world paled to chalk, the girls begged to follow. "Give us wings," they cried. Demeter, mother bereft, lashed her sorrow into a curse or a gift. The story cannot decide, and feathered their arms, then sharpened their nails. She gave them voices that could pour absence into any heart and make it thirst for answer. They rose from the meadow in a sound so pure that even the bees forgot their work. But to love a disappearance is to be sentenced to the edge of it forever, And so the sirens came to this island and learned eternity. Hear them now. One begins, and the air itself tightens to listen. The sound is not merely beautiful, it is accurate. It touches the places in you that do not lie. The small cathedral of childhood that has never burned down, even if the doors have warped. The worried animal that paws the floor of your chest. The part that wants to know everything and be forgiven anyway. The song promises both. It promises that if you lean just a little farther over the rail, if you surrender just one more inch of yourself, you will be given the answer that has followed you for years with bare feet. One lets a rope slip from his hand. One forgets to call the reef. One smiles at nothing in particular and places his palm against his mouth, as if to keep a secret warm. The captain thinks of home with such intensity that the word no longer means a place. It means an ache that the song could quiet. The prow knows the rocks before the men do, but the sirens do not drag or drown. They do not need to. Desire does the work with a devoted tenderness. Only sometimes does a man bind himself to survival. Odysseus, stubborn as a promise, once moored himself to a mast, to take the music like a fever. He stuffed his crew with wax and kept his ears open. He thought he could be a witness without becoming an offering. When the song struck him, he strained against the ropes until his skin raised in long red beads. He begged to be unbound. He swore his soul by the salt in his blood. He promised lives and islands. He promised anything, but the oars beat steady. The wax held and the ship lid beyond the reach of the last note. He wept the way a man might after hearing the truth about himself and being asked to live anyway. The sirens are not angry. They understand the physics of yearning. They resume their vigil, wings a little heavier for the loss, voices a shade more luminous for the practice. Eternity can make monsters. It has made them musicians. Breathe. In through the nose, 2, 3, hold. Out through the mouth, 2, 3, 4. Imagine the breath is a tide unthreading lace from rock. Imagine the lungs are coves that fill and empty without hurry. Let your tongue rest against the roof of your mouth. Let your eyes soften until the dark turns velvet. The music changes. It brightens like a doorway opened onto light. Beneath you, a court glows, columns of coral, braided with sea roses, floors of pearl dust and abalone mosaics. Here the Nereids, 50 daughters of Nereus and Daris, love the sea the way a child loves a grandmother who never scolds. They pass among the fish like forgiveness. They wear no crowns. The water makes one for them with every ripple. The Tis mother of a boy whose name will outlive his flesh, moves through the hall like a tide shouldering a bay. Around her come Amphitrite and Galatea, Samathe, whose hair keeps the memory of shore, and Simatho, who leans into keels during storms, her hands on the hull like a midwife. They sing, but their music has no words. It's the amorous hush of waves after wind. It's the belly laugh of dolphins braided through. It's the quiet that comes when danger remembers manners. Even Poseidon listens. The old god, beard salted with foam, has temper like weather. Sometimes he tells a mountain to become a wave and it obeys. Sometimes he remembers to be kind. He carries the sea as if it were both weapon and child. When rage nicks his voice and the swell begins to climb, the Nereids lift their arms and the water, obedient to gentleness, lies down. There is a happiness here that requires no reason. You feel it in your throat and it tastes like sweetness. You forgot to want. Sailors, even those who never learned letters, knew how to write their names on this mercy. Before a voyage they poured wine, red as heart muscle, into the harbor. They burned a pinch of cassia. They said, Master of the sea, remember me kindly. The wise made the sign not because they were certain the god required it, but because gratitude is the right shape of a mouth opening to the unknown. Night deepens, the court fades the way candlelight blooms and gives itself back to dark. Your body floats like a thought that's forgiven itself. Far ahead the water gathers in its throat as if preparing to speak a different sentence. The channel narrows, rock shoulders bruise starlight on either side. To starboard a cave gapes, a red seam of glowworms like a wound. To port the sea trembles in place, then gives way, then surges back like a lung gasping. The strait is a throat that swallowed God's and learned appetite. Sela, Charybdis. They were not made wicked for sport. Sela was once a girl whose hair smelled of myrtle and whose laugh lived on another girl's mouth for a week after they parted. She loved a man, and a woman who loved that man more loved justice less. Jealousy, old artisan, did its precise work. Now 12 feet stamp rock, 6 necks ribbon from a waist cinctured with dog heads, and a cavern fills with the sound of hunger rehearsing itself. Charybdis was once a daughter who brought the sea too near the shore at her father's command. For her loyalty she was punished, made a maw that must drink the world and cough it back 3 times each day in a labor no apology can quit. She does not choose, she expands and empties, rim foaming with stars, the sound huge enough to terrify desert. Between them a proverb learned to walk upright. Men say they must choose, the truth is they must pass. We pass. The water that carries us has been here before. It remembers where the whirl relents and where the cliff leans back. The danger nods and lets us through. We are so quiet the cave bats dream of birds, and the birds dream of girls wearing night on their arms like shawls, and the girls dream of meadows, and the meadows dream of spring, with no bargains, and for a breath nothing is punished at all. The Aegean opens again, a chest unclasped. On distant islands, goats wear little bells that sound like children practicing laughter. The moon stands on tiptoe to see herself in a harbor where a saint's icon collects the kisses of women who have not yet told their husbands they are with child. A fisherman's net lifts a galaxy of wet fire. He thinks of the mother who taught him to untangle knots without anger and is briefly unafraid of death. Somewhere a widow salts olives and tells the jar a story no one else deserves to hear. The sea carries all of it, the way a lap carries a sleeping animal, careless but safe. Rest. Let your breath grow slower than thought. Imagine the ribs widening like doors unlatched from within. Lay the tongue down like an oar. If there is a fear flitting about your chest like a swift who has mistaken a chimney for a cave, open the top of you to the sky and watch it find its way to star. Not as queen in a crown of iron pomegranate, not as bargaining season between grief and harvest. A girl on a hillside, hands full of narcissus, face lit the way faces are lit when the day is still deciding what it means. The sirens trail her like bees who have learned to sing. They are human in this remembering, their wings not yet spelled onto their backs. They tell her jokes whose punchlines are only music. She listens and eats sunlight. I nix watch from an olive's shadow and feel something in me that is older than God's turn its head. Then the earth opens. The perfume of the flowers goes thin as if the petals have learned a new arithmetic. Horses climb from a hole where there should be none. A chariot grinds the meadow into a grammar of lines and commas. A hand firm, unafraid and wrong takes the girl. The sirens run, but grief is a stronger wing. The meadow remembers her better than we do. When Demeter rips open the sky to ask where her daughter has gone, the wind goes deaf. I would say time stopped, but you are inside the body that knows time never died. Demeter looks at the companions. She sees that they ran and were not fast enough. She answers her own pain with a transformation. Sing, she says without saying. Sing so that no one will ever forget what was taken. Sing so that anyone who hears will know the cost of one. Feather and beak, talon and throat. The girls kneel to take their new bodies. They rise, they learn the island, they invent the song that understands you. And so the sirens are a shrine without walls. When you hear them, remember this meadow. Not everything that lures intends harm. Sometimes music is simply a way for grief to keep her hands warm. The night slides its palm over the sea as one smooth touch. The Nereids sigh and return to their gardens. Poseidon lays his trident along the floor as if it might learn to be a flute. Sela counts the seal. Charybdis measures herself against the moon and decides she can wait. The Aegean lowers its voice until it's a hum you can keep in your pocket. I kneel to the surface and put my mouth there, and the ocean kisses back. Salt, iron, a sweetness like kelp that has loved the sun. Will you carry them? I ask. The sea answers by doing it. Breathe with me. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Again, in, hold, out. Let each emptying be a surrender you do not have to explain. On the horizon, a thin seam of pale green opens, not dawn but a color that belongs to colder water. The current beneath you alters its handwriting. Round letters sharpen, the lines slant north, the stars shift from garlands to spears. Somewhere far ahead, a goddess keeps a net with hands as pale as storm foam. Her husband's haul is a bruise of gold in the deep. 9 sisters run laughing along a black shore, their gowns of spindrift and their crowns of ice. The Aegean loosens your hand, the next sea takes it. Do you feel it? I whisper, and the water carries my voice through you. The song is changing key. The night is teaching you a northern vowel. Do not be afraid. The cold is a kind of cleanliness. It will rinse even your name until it rings like a bell under snow. What is heavy will learn to float. What bites will learn to sing. What sleeps will turn once in its cave and dream you safe. Let your eyes half close. Let your body become a little boat that does not question the river that supports it. If a thought knocks, let it sit on the stern and watch the wake. There is room for passengers who be. When you next inhale, breathe mist. When you next exhale, see it leave your mouth like a promise, honored. The water darkens toward iron. A ribbon of green aurora lifts a hem on the far sky, and then lets it fall, shy and fierce by turns. The first snowflake of the north is not white, but a hush. The Greek seas bow behind us, their temples and olives and sudden ravines, their saints and sailors and birds that comb the wind with their wingtips. We carry them like shells that still murmur when you put them to your ear. Ahead, another music, deeper, older, braided with the names of storms. I am with you. I have been the night in every latitude. I have watched men swear oaths to foam, and women pour milk into water for luck. I have listened at the mouths of fjords while whales drew maps under the skin of the sea. I will not leave you at a border. Close your eyes completely now. The last Aegean wave lifts you, sets you down. The keel of the world grinds once and then glides. A net tightens somewhere in the dark. A mead hall window spills honey-colored light into black water. The sea takes a long breath in. Welcome to the cold northern sea. The current slides north. The water thickens, gaining the taste of iron and rain. Behind us, the Aegean has gone to sleep. Its blue now only a rumor in the mind. Ahead waits a darker hymn, the sound of ice grinding against itself, of wind scouring stone, of whales breathing steam beneath the sky, the color of lead. Breathe with it. In for 4, hold, out for 6. Let your chest echo the slow pulse of the northern tide. The moon lowers, bruised purple along her rim. The stars retreat until only one remains, cold and high, a nail fastening night to the dome of the world. Below, something vast exhales. The surface dimples. Then a sheet of light green, rose, white spills downward from the heavens. Twisting like silk, the aurora has come to meet you. It dances, and in its silent motion the sea takes a long sigh and opens her mouth. We have entered Ran's realm. She is waiting at the edge of a storm, net in hand, hair unbound. Her eyes are gray as unfinished metal. The wind bows to her as it passes. Another traveler, she says, voice carrying like a wave breaking in a cavern. She lifts the net, threads of seaweed glinting with frost. I catch only what the ocean wants to keep. Tell me, does it want you? You do not answer, only breathe. The air here is colder but clean. It smells of snow and salt of the first hour after rain. Not tonight, she decides. And with a gesture both kind and terrible, she turns the storm aside. The sea folds itself into calmer swells, and you drift past her shoulder into a widening fjord. Mountains rise on either side, black and jagged, their slopes fretted with ice. Pines lean toward the water as if to drink the reflection of the aurora. Somewhere a bell rings, a ship's bell or perhaps a drowned one, remembering itself. Beneath the surface lies Aegir's Hall. The descent is slow, a spiral of bubbles and drifting snow. Light thins until it becomes gold dust in green darkness. Then suddenly a glow, amber, honey, steady. You pass through a gate carved from whalebone and coral into a vast chamber roofed with translucent ice. Fires burn here impossibly, their flames blue as glacier heart. They crackle with magic, not smoke. Benches hewn from driftwood line the walls. On them sit the drowned, laughing softly, mugs of foaming mead in their hands. They do not look dead, they look remembered. At the far end of the hall, Aegir, lord of the deep, lifts a drinking horn the size of a ship's sail. His beard flows like kelp, his smile gleams through mist. Beside him sits Ran, her earlier ferocity now gentled to a wifely amusement. Around them move 9 daughters, the wave maidens, their gowns spun of foam and their hair glittering with sea salt. Each daughter is a face of the sea. Kulga, the cold one, whose touch can still a storm. Dufa, the lofty, who raises waves like hills. Humming lava, through whom the heavens can be seen, transparent and tender. And their sisters with names that roll like surf along the tongue. They dance through the hall, their laughter chiming like icicles. Each time they twirl, the floor ripples and a fresh tide rushes in and out again. Every few heartbeats a door opens in the wall and another sailor steps through, wet, bewildered, then suddenly joyous as a mug is pressed into his hand. Here, death by water is not punishment, it is homecoming. Ran's net was never a snare, it was a cradle. Aegir's booming voice fills the chamber. Behold, he says to his guest, the heart of the sea. The storm outside may roar, but within these walls there is only song. He gestures to the maidens. Sing, my daughters, remind them why they trusted the tide. And they do. The sound begins like breath over glass, thin and high, then widens into a chord so full it vibrates the bones of the hall. It is not melody but movement, a tide made audible. The drowned raise their cup. The mead glows brighter, it tastes of pine resin, of snow melting on the tongue, of the first word ever spoken beneath water. Nyx stands beside you, shadow deepening the edges of the firelight. Her voice folds around the music like velvet around steel. Even gods thirst, she murmured. They build feasts in the dark to remember warmths. Listen to how the sea keeps its dead alive. The hull fades slowly until all that remains is the song. The melody carries you upward, back through cold layers of current, until the roof of the sea turns to mirror once more. When you break the surface, the night is a cathedral of aurora. The colors wheel like silent bells. Snowflakes land on the water and vanish without a sound. A lone Viking ship drifts nearby, its sail furled. The men aboard whisper prayers into their beer. One tosses a silver coin into the sea, a ransom to Ran in case she grows hungry. The coin spins once in the air, catches starlight, and disappears with a quiet plink. The wind changes. It comes from the north now, carrying scents of pine tar and smoke from unseen hearts. You can almost hear children laughing somewhere inland, muffled by snow. For a moment the world feels newly made. Then a tremor passes through the water. Far beneath you something vast turns in its sleep. The tremor deepens. A slow circular pulse travels through the black water, bending the surface into rings of quiet thunder. Whales fall silent. Even the wind hesitates as though the world itself has remembered an older heartbeat. Beneath you coils Jormungand, the world serpent. He lies beneath every current, scaled in twilight metal, tail and mouth, dreaming the circumference of the earth. When he stirs, the sea flexes. When he dreams, continents drift. Tonight he does not wake, he shifts. One eye opens, green as the aurora, reflecting the stars he cannot see. The pupil narrows to a crack of light and you glimpse eternity. Looking back, Nyx's whisper threads the water. Be still, this one remembers the first dawn. Even I am younger than his patience. The serpent exhales and the breath becomes a current. It lifts you gently at first. Then with purpose, you rise through columns of chill, passing jellyfish that glow like lanterns, and shoals of silver fish that scatter like a single thought breaking into words. The sea smells faintly of stone and snowmelt. Above, clouds grind against each other, drawing sparks. Then comes the storm, at first only wind, a long note played on invisible strings. Then thunder that walks on water. Lightning stitches white seams through the sky and rain begins to fall in diagonal sheets. Each drop is a needle piercing the ocean's skin. Yet beneath the fury there is discipline, a rhythm. The northern seas do not rage. They recite, they are telling the saga of balance. For every wave that rises one back, you see the Vikings in their long ship, muscles shining with spray. Eyes narrowed but not afraid, they chant to keep time with the oars, short syllables that could be curses or prayers. When the mast bends they do not scream, they grin, for to them the sea's wrath is proof of war. Somewhere in that chaos a woman stands on the cliff above, hair whipping like a flag of black fire, and sings a low counterpoint that steadies the wind. Perhaps she is Ran herself, or a mortal who remembers being her. Nyx steps from the sky onto the mast of the ship. Her feet make no sound. She walks to the prow and lays a finger on the carved dragon's brow. The figurehead stills. The ship's bow cuts a perfect line through the storm. The men blink salt from their eyes, half believing, half forgetting what they saw. Mortals, she murmurs, always steering between hunger and hope. Even here they call the sea mother. And still they fight her. The rain softens, the clouds thin to gauze, behind them glows a low red light, the promise of another dawn. Steam rises from the ship's planks. The smell of wet rope and pine fills your lungs. The storm has rinsed the world clean. Breathe, Nyx says, in hold out. Again, each breath leaves a ribbon of warmth in the cold air. The ship drifts toward a fjord where waterfalls hang like threads of silver cloth. Ice drips from their edges in slow musical notes. Villages nestle along the slopes, smoke curling from turf roofs. Children wave from the snowbanks. Their laughter carries like bells across the bay. You glide past them unseen. The sea beneath the keel glows with faint green fire. It is the serpent's after image, lingering like memory. As the vessel reaches the calm center of the fjord, the sailors lower their heads and murmur thanks to the sea and to the gods who dwell beneath. One man drops his hand into the water. For my brother, he whispers. The current curls around his wrist like a reply. Nyx closes her eyes. The sea keeps what it loves, she says softly, not to hoard but to remember. The dead are stories told perfectly one. She looks toward the mountains, where the aurora begins again, arches of green rising like gates. Do you see them? The 9 sisters, every crest, every calm, every heartbeat of these waters has a name. The sisters appear faintly along the horizon, tall and luminous, each wave wearing the face of a woman carved from starlight. They raise their arms, and the aurora bends through their fingers like harp strings. A music of light flows across the sea. The sailors kneel, the whales turn their heads upward, Even the wind forgets direction. This is the hymn of the northern ocean, the lullaby that follows conquest, the peace that comes after endurance. It is not sweet, but it is honest. Nyx lifts her gaze to the vault of the sky. Every sea has its temperament. The south sings of warmth and yielding. The east tells riddles. The west hums like blood. But the north, she smiles, small and secret. The north forgives nothing, yet destroys nothing in vain. It teaches steadiness. The aurora swells until the colors fill the air around you. Green becomes gold, gold fades to pale blue, then white. The world blurs, and you find yourself weightless, lying on your back in a sea of light. Let the cold lift from you, Nyx whisper. Let the muscles of your face unclench. Let the pulse in your throat slow, until it matches the heartbeat of the earth. You have crossed the storm. You are safe. You drift. Time loosens. Images move beneath the surface like dreams. A mead hall flickering behind glassy waves. A serpent coiled in sleep around the roots of mountains. A goddess mending her net with threads of moonlight. The reflection of your own face, calm, unfamiliar, beautiful. The sea sighs one last time, and the water grows warmer. To the southeast, a new current waits, green gold, flecked with mist and birdsong. It smells faintly of peat and heather. The air carries a gentler sadness, the kind that ends in music. Nyx leans close, her voice a breath against your ear. The cold has released you. Next come the shores of the Celts, the Selkies' dance, the Marrow's laughter, the songs of love that cannot stay. Rest a moment, then follow me. She lifts her hand. The aurora folds itself into her palm and becomes a small flame. She touches it to the sea. A trail of light snakes forward, showing the way. Breathe once more, she says. In for 4, hold, out for 6. The water beneath you turns silver, then soft green. Somewhere ahead a bell made of shell rings once. The northern light fades behind like a curtain being drawn, and with the hush of a wave closing over footprints in snow, the voyage continues toward the misted Celtic coast. The water turns the color of old glass, soft green, with threads of milk, and the air warms enough to carry the smell of wet stone, peat smoke, and heather crushed under boots that are not ours. Gulls wheel and cry in a language of commas. The horizon frays into islands. Fat seals like punctuations on black rock. Paragraphs. A chapel no bigger than a thimble on a cliff. A path of white cottages blinking in and out of mist. Breathe, I say. In for 4, hold out for 6. Let the breath taste faintly of rain and salt butter, as if you've walked into a kitchen where someone has just cut a heel off a new loaf, and the door to the shore is open. A tide run carries us toward a quiet cove. The sea makes its old crochet of foam around stones, the size of sleeping cows. On the beach, brown kelp slicks shine like satin ribbons fallen from a dancer's hair. The sky is a low ceiling, the color of pewter. Somewhere inland, a fiddle is being tuned, though perhaps that is only wind finding string in a broken fence. It is here, on nights when the moon is a half coin, and the wind comes from the west, that the seal folk remember their other names. The seals watch the shore the way a house looks at its door, expectant, a little shy. They move like smooth punctuation through the swell, then, as if obeying a signal only they can hear, they come ashore. What happens next has the honesty of weather. Skins loosen at shoulders, slip like cloaks to the stones, and selkies step out of themselves. They are what the sea makes when it longs for walking. Women and men with hair like wet rope and eyes the color of tide pools. They shake the cold from their limbs and laugh softly, the laugh that seals carry like a secret. The moon lifts her chin to see better. In pairs and small circles they dance barefoot on weed-slick rock, their hands knotted together the way seaweeds braid themselves when the tide falls. They do not speak, or if they do, the words are made of tide sounds, lilts and hushes, syllables you must feel rather than hear. A man on the path above stops and holds his breath. He is a fisherman, a widower, or simply a kind of loneliness with hands. He should go. Instead, he hides behind a gorse bush and watches a Selkie woman peel laughter from the air as if it were something to eat. He sees the pile of sealskins, each one a home set aside for a few moments of forgetting. He is not cruel. He is afraid of losing the thing he has not yet found. Fear pretends to be romance, then necessity, then fate. He steps down as softly as one can step on loose stones and lifts a skin. It is heavier than it looks, salt and musk and the memory of thousands of miles. He folds it into his coat and carries it where only he can find it, the place one keeps a wrong that promises happiness. He courts her like a gentleman. He keeps butter soft and fresh water on the hearth. He makes her laugh in the human way. She gives him children who love the sea and who, when they cry, cry like gulls. He shows her love the way men do, who are always measuring the cost of losing it. She shows him love the way sea does, total and already halfway on its way back. But every evening she goes to the threshold and her hands forget themselves in the motion seals make when they swim, palms cupped, wrists turning, forearms cleaving the air. Her eyes look to the line where the water chews the world. The children learn the choreography of that looking and learn not to ask. Then one dull afternoon in late spring, when the smell of rain is a confusion between land and sky, she climbs to the loft to shake the dust out of quilts. Her hand meets a board out of square. She lifts it. There is her skin sleeping with its eyes open. It is not a choice. It is a tide. She writes the children's names across her heart in salt. She tells the house thank you for keeping a winter away from her bones. She speaks his name as if it were a knotted rope she is untying so no one drowns. Then she takes the skin in her arms, and for a breath, the room is two bodies, woman and seal, overlaying each other like waves. She is gone before the door has time to learn the weight of it. On the shore she turns once, the way seals do, to see if the wave is coming the way it ought. Her eyes are a harbor and a farewell. Then there is only a seal in the water and she swims the way the world breathes when it remembers it was once all sea. The husband finds the empty loft and the folded quilts and understands that love is not the same thing as possession, and that grief can be clean if you don't try to name the water that made it. Rest, I whisper. Let the ache in your chest be a tide that leaves its shells, then go in for 4, hold out for 6. Farther south along the Irish coast, the wind remembers a different story and tells it to the waves until the waves begin to sing it. We follow to a small village that looks as if it has decided to pretend the 19th century never ended. Whitewash, red doors, a pub that keeps the night like a good jar keeps jam. Here the sea does not always send seals to shore. Sometimes it sends women with green hair like weed and eyes with a sweet hunger in them. He knows the tellings well enough to feel the shiver of power move through his fingers. If he hides it, a marrow will not be able to return beneath the waves. She will come to shore, she will live with him and keep the kettle on and sing songs from the other side of breath. He will be blessed and safe and less alone. He hides it. Of course he does. Men always think they can file the sharp off myth with kindness. She comes a marrow with gentleness like a meadow in summer rain. Her laughter fills room. When she walks through the village, time slows down to watch its own hips move. She marries the fisherman because her heart is made for it, because she is kind, because being trapped is not the same as not loving. The children wear webbed shoes without anyone teaching them how. Sometimes their toes forget themselves and web together in the bath. But the sea keeps a ledger. On an afternoon when everything smells of tide and boiled potatoes, she finds the red cap tucked in a hutch behind the good plate. It burns her hand with recognizing. She makes a sound the house has to learn to hold. Then she kisses her husband's forehead and says a thank you that will last him the rest of his life. The cap goes on. She is a new verb. The door barely swings. When she reaches the edge of the world, she doesn't pause. In the froth, there is a laugh like an apology. The fisherman sits at the table. The boiled potatoes steam and wait. He learns the shape of absence that isn't crime. He learns that a cap can be a life and that love, if it is love, opens its hand even when it is emptying. We sail on. The surface breaks with the heads of blue men of the Minch, green-bearded, blue-skinned, grinning like oarsmen who know a joke you'll never fully get. One clings to the gunwale and sings a line. The captain must answer with a rhyme or the sea will remember how to be storm-born, foam-torn, keel-worn. The blue man offers. Star-warm, mast firm, safe dawn. The captain returns grim and nimble. The blue men throw back their heads and laugh. They clap water like applause and turn the storm aside because the sea loves wit almost as much as courage. As they vanish into spindrift, one of them glances back with a look that says, "Keep the words ready, you'll need them more than rope." Elsewhere in Orkney and Shetland, the Finnfolk shrug into human beauty the way others shrug into a coat. Their islands are gold under the sea. Their tempers run cold and handsome. They do not romanticize humans. They harvest us now and again as we harvest fish. Still, even their taking is a kind of acknowledgement that we belong to each other's myth. The Celtic shore keeps a box of softer endings too. Lovers step onto a small boat and push off, crossing the ninth wave toward Tir na Nog, the land where youth is a season that does not close. Grass there is made of the time you wasted and wish you could get back. Trees bloom with apologies you never asked for. Horses run without getting tired and laugh at their own hoot. When the lovers come home after what felt like a season, centuries have pulled the thatch down and eaten the letters off the stones. If they are clever, they do not step onto land. They kiss the air and turn the boat back into myth. A lighthouse stutters 3 slow beats they've taught it to make. I see you, I see you. On the quay a fiddler leans into a reel until it becomes something else. A prayer that ran away from a church and learned to dance. In a window a woman writes a name on fog and smiles when it vanishes because it means the world is still breathing. Now rest, I say, and the cove obliges. The tide leans down and licks the rocks like a dog, and the rocks, pretending not to be touched, shine anyway. Smoke from peat joins mist from sea. Together they learn to be one more sort of weather. Behind a dune a child sleeps with sand on his lips and salt in his hair and will love the sea so much he will move inland one day just to see if he can live without it. He cannot, but he will try kindly. Breathe, in for 4, hold, out for 6. Let the jaw loosen, let the skin along your forearms remember wind and forget hurry. Imagine the soles of your feet heavy and warm, as if you have taken off boots after a long walk and the ground has decided to be a chair. If there is a thought that keeps returning like a bottle to a tide line, pick it up, read the message that says "not tonight," and set it back out. Watch it bob, watch it go. Mist folds the green into gray. The last selkie slips into the tide as if the seam between worlds were a silk thread and she the needle finding its right hole. The Marrow's red cap gleams once, then becomes a drop among dry. Blue men dive, leaving a joke behind that will wash up on some beach as a rhyme a child thinks he invented. I turn my face toward the east of east, the way the rivers run when they grow up. The air cools with a forest's breath. The music changes key from real to hush. Come, I murmur. Follow the river inland. The lake is still as a held word. There is a willow with a lap for ghosts. There is a girl combing her hair with an ivory comb. She will look up when we arrive. The sea gives our little craft to the river the way a mother gives a sleeping child to another pair of arms. The current grows slow and brown and heavy with silt and stories. Dragonflies sew quick blue stitches along the water's hem. Reeds whisper syllables that do not require consonant. Breathe one more time, I say. In for 4, hold for 4, Out for 6. Somewhere ahead the first frog calls the night to order. Fireflies hang their lanterns on hooks only they can see. The last salt fades from the air, replaced by the pepper of damp soil and the mint of crushed grass. The ocean we leave behind hums like a shell held to the ear. The river we enter speaks softly and is not in a hurry. The lake we're approaching does not speak at all. There will be a girl on a branch, and laughter that sounds like water where it narrows, and a story that tries to tickle you to death. Welcome to the Slavic Waters. The river that carried us from the Celtic coast narrows, slows, and grows heavy with memory. Salt gives way to silt. The air turns thick and green, smelling of alder leaves, damp earth, and the smoke of small fires hidden in the woods. Evening gathers like a shawl around the shoulders of the world. Breathe, I whisper. In for 4, hold out for 6. The lungs obey, filling with air that tastes of rain caught in moss. When you exhale, the mist trembles. The first stars appear through the canopy, weak, pale lanterns hung by invisible hands. Fireflies answer them, blinking across the surface of the water. Reeds stand like sentinels, whispering gossip to one another. Somewhere a night bird calls 3 times and stops as if the sound has realized it should not be here. We have left the ocean, but not its mood. The sea's endless breath has become the sigh of river and lake. Still beneath the stillness, something stirs, a longing that wears a human face. At the curve of the river lies a pond smooth as blown glass. The willow leans over it, hair trailing in the black water. Beneath that mirror sits a figure, pale, patient, perfectly still. When she lifts her head, moonlight slips down her wet hair in ropes of silver. A Rosaka. Once she was a girl. She had a name, a family, a place at a table where soup steamed and laughter rose like birds. She was promised to someone. She believed promises were nets strong enough to hold love. Then came betrayal, perhaps a lover's cruelty, perhaps a push at the riverbank, perhaps despair dressed as silence. Water accepted her the way it accepts everything, without question. It closed above her like a lid. Now she lives here between breath and oblivion. The village fears her, but the frogs do not. The reeds whisper to her like friends. At night she climbs from the water, bare feet silent on the mud, her gown clinging like another layer of skin. She sits on the lowest branch of the willow, combing her long hair with an ivory comb. Each stroke a question answered only by ripples. Her song begins softly, a hum made of vowels and river mist. It is not meant for you, yet you hear it. It seeps through bone as easily as cold. It asks nothing and offers everything. The forgetting of hurt, the peace of surrender, the cool embrace that never judges. Men who pass the pond after dark often stop. They believe they are choosing to listen, but the choice was taken the moment the first note found them. The water brightens, the Rosaka smiles. They step closer. Sometimes she only dances with them in the shallows, her laughter echoing under the trees until dawn. Sometimes she wraps her arms around their shoulders and pulls them beneath, slow as forgiveness. The villagers say that if you look into the pond on midsummer night, you can see her lovers drifting under the surface, eyes open, mouths curved in bliss as if the water has finally told them something worth dying for. But there are other stories too. In some she saves a drowning child, in others she waters the fields during Rosaka week, bringing fertility to the soil before vanishing again. Once, long ago, before Christianity built its crosses on these banks, the people left her gifts, bread, embroidered cloth, the first apples of spring, because they knew the river's moods must be fed, not feared. Back then the Rosaka was still half goddess, half girl. Only later did she become a ghost. I watch her combing, her eyes lift to mine, unstartled. You carry the sea in your voice, she says. I carry the night, I answer. It is the same thing, she murmurs, and disappears beneath the willow's reflection. Silence closes like water over her absence. Even the insects pause, unsure whether to resume their chorus. Breathe, I tell you again, softer. Let your exhale ripple the pond only enough to see it move. The air cools your cheeks. Your heart settles into the rhythm of slow, deep water. Farther downstream, the river broadens into a mill pond, the wheel turning with a lazy groan. The miller has gone home. Only the building hums with leftover work. Beneath its shadow, something old and heavy stirs, releasing a string of bubbles. A face rises, green beard, frog eyes, a pipe clenched in wide lips. The Vudianoi. He looks like a man who has been carved from river stone and softened by centuries. His coat is made of weeds. His hat drips. His laughter sounds like mud gulping around a boot. Yet there is wit in those bulging eyes and loneliness too. Grandfather, I say, for that is how the villagers greet him when they throw tobacco into the pond. He tips his hat. The night lady herself, he croaks. I thought the sea kept you. The sea keeps no one, I reply. It only remembers. He chuckles, bubbles rising. Then we are alike. He invites us down, and the water opens as easily as curtain cloth. Inside his hall, everything is colored the way water would be if it learned to dream. Greens layered with browns, glints of copper from sunken coins, a haze of silt that turns the beams of light into honey. Fish drift through the doorways as familiars. Cups made of snail shells line a shelf. Each holds a small flickering sphere of light. Souls, he explains. Those who drown belong somewhere. I keep them tidy. He takes one jar, opens it, and a pale glow floats upward like a sigh. Sometimes they escape. I don't chase them. If a soul remembers where it's supposed to go, who am I to interfere? He replaces the lid carefully, his long fingers trembling with an affection almost human. When offended, he floods a field or tips a boat. But when appeased, he blesses nets and turns the mill wheel true. The millers know his moods. They whisper good evenings and toss him crumbs of bread. The wise even leave a dram of vodka on the bank. In the morning, the cup is always empty. He gestures toward a painting that water has made on the wall. A blur of colors that could be reeds or hair. My wife, he says, she was a Rusaka once before the gods changed their minds about everything. She visits when the moon forgets its schedule. A long pause fills the hall, thick with the scent of algae and smoke. He sets the pipe between his teeth again and puffs, each bubble surfacing above us like a lazy thought. Tell them up there, he says finally, that not every ghost wants revenge. Some of us just like company. Then he grins, all moss and kindness, and the hall dissolves into ripples. You surface near the mill. The wheel creaks once more and stops as if bowing. A frog croaks approval. The moon moves higher, silvering the fields. Breathe, I whisper. You are safe. The river loosens, widening again, carrying us past reeds that bend their heads in farewell. The air smells different now, warmer, salted with a promise of distant coasts. The northern birches give way to plains and the wind changes accent. The waters merge. I tell you, from here they will flow into greater rivers, and those into the southern seas. The journey is long, but the current knows the way. The last we see of the Slavic night is the willow standing by the pond, its branches trailing like the arms of someone waving goodbye and meaning it. The surface of the water is calm again, showing the moon's face as though nothing has ever disturbed. Downstream, the night grows wide again. The river braids itself into many arms, then loosens into marshes where fog sleeps like folded linen. Reeds sway, frogs drum. Something unseen sighs in answer. You can taste copper on your tongue, the flavor of rain still deciding whether it will fall. The stars have rearranged themselves into a slow wheel above the water. Between their spokes the moon lingers, pale and uncertain, as if reluctant to leave the company of ghosts. Breathe, I say. In for 4, hold out for 6. Let the chest rise like a lake under wind. Let it fall like stillness returning. We pass a half-sunken chapel. Its bell lies sideways in the mud. Yet every few years when the thaw comes it rings once, No one knows why. Perhaps it remembers the hymns sung for the drowned. Perhaps the Vagianoi's pipe smoke drifts in and wakes the metal. Night creatures gather at the edge of sound. An otter rolls in silver light. An owl watches our wake, round eyes bright as coins from an older empire. The air carries stories instead of scent. How rivers were once gods. How names were offerings. How love learned to flow downstream. Nyx walks beside you on the water, her feet dimpling the surface. Her hair hangs heavy with stars. She looks toward the dark horizon where the river will surrender to the Black Sea. Mortals think death is an ending, she murmurs. It is only a deeper current. The drowned are not lost. They are archived. Every drop that has held a heartbeat remembers the pattern. The next rain will use it again. She stoops and scoops a handful of water. Within her palm it glows faintly, a constellation of tiny lights. Look, she says. Each spark is someone's last breath turned luminous. Together they make the Milky Way underwater. She opens her hand. The light slips back into the river like quicksilver. You do not need to fear the dark, she continues. Darkness is simply the color of waiting. We drift past a meadow drowned long ago. Birch trunks rise from the shallows. Bark ghost white, leaves long gone. Beneath the water the grass still grows, slow and pale, combed by fish. It looks like hair flowing in sleep. The river begins to quicken as if excited by the thought of ocean. The banks lower, the reeds thin, the sound changes from murmur to breath. Ahead the horizon glows faintly, not with dawn but with distance. Warmth waiting somewhere far south. Nyx glances over her shoulder. You have listened to many waters, she says, cold and kind, cruel and tender. There are more voices still. The ones that sing of birth instead of burial. Her hand brushes the air and the fog folds itself away. Stars blink brighter, rearranging into a new constellation shaped like a serpent swallowing the sun. A breeze rises, carrying a different perfume. Salt again, yes, but mingled now with spice and flowers crushed under warm rain. The mother waters, she whispers. Africa is waking. Before we follow, she gives the Slavic night one last gift. She reaches up and pulls a thread from the sky, a thin blue strand of starlight, and lays it across the river. It glimmers once, then so they will never be forgotten, she says. The current seizes us. The cold of the north peels away like a discarded cloak. Warmth rolls in, heavy and fragrant. The stars climb higher, gold against indigo. The pulse of the earth beats loud. Breathe, she says again, voice low and even. In 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Feel the blood move slower, thicker, sweet. The last of the northern wind combs through your hair, leaving a trace of snow that melts before it can become memory. The water changes color from pewter to bronze to black gold. Fish leap, flashing like coins under sunlight that has not yet risen. On a distant shore, a woman hums a lullaby older than language. The notes drift across the water, smooth and sure. The river answers with ripples that glitter like small mirrors. The air smells of cinnamon, palm wine, and smoke from fires banked for morning. The voice you hear, Nyx says, is the beginning of Mummy Wada's song. She will rise soon, half light, half water, and the world will remember the warmth that built it. She looks at you, eyes dark as tide. You have done well to come this far. The night has not taken you. It has taught you how to float. The current turns slow, deliberate. The reeds give way to mangroves. Roots tangled like fingers in prayer. The sky brightens along the edges, the color of brass rubbed with oil. Somewhere ahead, drums begin, a heartbeat shaped into rhythm. Rest now, Nyx says. The next sea is generous, but she asks respect. Close your eyes, feel the warmth climb your skin. Let go of frost, of sorrow, of everything that sinks. You obey. The sound of water becomes distant thunder. The breath evens between one blink and the next. The cold northern night is only a dream you once had about courage. When you open your eyes, the river has widened to infinity. Moonlight glows amber, palm fronds move like green flames along the shore. Voices laugh somewhere out of sight. The voyage of the Slavic Waters is done. The next story waits in the gold heart of dawn. The river sighs, stretching wide until it forgets its name. Fresh water yields to brine, reeds thin into mangroves, roots drink salt. The air changes color, gold rather than gray, thick with warmth and scent. You can taste sun in it. Breathe, I whisper. In for 4, hold out for 6. The chest fills with heat instead of chill. Every inhale is honey, every exhale is smoke. The night here hums differently. Crickets keep time like drummers, and somewhere beyond the curve of the shore, a single djembe thuds in answer. Fireflies hover close to the ground, green sparks in a slow dance. The water around us glows faintly, carrying the reflected pulse of those unseen hands. We drift through an estuary wide enough to be a world. Palm fronds arch overhead, herons stand in the shallows like white punctuation. The river's current slackens, then bows to something larger. The mouth of the Atlantic yawns open, hot and glittering. Moonlight lies across it like oil. On the horizon, a woman's laughter rides the tide. It's rich, amused, dangerous. The mother of waters, I murmur. She has noticed us. She comes the way beauty often does, first as rumor, then as inevitability. A ripple lifts, foam thickens, silver becomes skin. From the waist up she is a woman, her body gleaming with the sheen of rain on bronze. From the waist down the sea continues, scaled and infinite. In one hand she holds a mirror, in the other a live serpent, whose head rests calmly against her palm. Mami Wada, her hair coils like dark riverweed, jewels wink among the curls, as if the stars have chosen a new constellation. Around her throat hang shells, coins, bits of glass worn soft by tides, tribute from all who have loved or feared her. The serpent flicks its tongue toward you. Mami Wada smiles. You have traveled far, she says, voice heavy with tides. What have you learned of water? That it remembers, I answer. She nods. And that memory is wealth. Those who honor me prosper because they do not waste remembering. The waves hush at her words. The moon tilts to listen. She raises her mirror's surface shows not your face, but your reflection made of light, your truest calm. This is what the sea sees when she forgives, she says. Then she lowers the glass, and for a heartbeat you feel the deep pull that could either bless or drown. Mami Wada's world is a chord of opposites. Around her currents spiral like dancers. Schools of fish gleam like necklaces. The smell of salt is cut with perfume. She is wealth and warning, abundance and appetite. Traders who pray to her before a voyage often return with holds full of goods and stories they will not tell in daylight. Fishermen who glimpse her combing her hair on the rocks are wise enough to leave gifts rather than questions. Those who fear me, she says, fear their own reflection. I give back only what you bring. She tilts her head, studying you. You carry both hunger and grace. That pleases me. A wave curls forward to kiss your fingertips. Warmth spreads up the arm like approval. Behind her, the coast brightens. Fires bloom along the beach, altars tended by women in white robes. They sing in Yoruba and Igbo, in Ewe and Kikongo, their voices weaving like nets cast into the sky. Offerings glitter, glass bottles of sweet drink, bowls of fruit, combs, mirrors, coins, flowers. The women sway, and the sea answers, taking the gifts gently. Mami Wada's smile softens. See? They remember that the world began in water, and they sing gratitude so that the tide will not forget them when it chooses what to keep. She listens for a moment to the chorus, then turns her gaze seaward. My sisters wait across the ocean. When the ships carried sorrow west, I followed. I could not let my children be alone. The wind picks up, carrying a different rhythm, tambour, rattle, chant. It smells of sugar cane and distant thunder. The African coast blurs, replaced by the vision of another shore. Islands where drums speak the names of gods in code. Cities where saints wear the faces of orishas. where people still throw white roses into surf each New Year's Eve. They call me that there. My song crossed with theirs. For a moment, the Atlantic itself seems to pulse like a heart shared between continents. The mirror in her hand glows brighter until it becomes a small sun. Remember, she says, the sea is one body. It connects, not divides. She lifts both arms. The serpent loops around her shoulders. Waves rise in response. Then, as suddenly as she came, she is gone, foam collapsing into itself, leaving only the echo of laughter and the smell of rain before dawn. The sea remains golden for a while. Then it darkens, thick with potential. The air trembles, waiting for the next voice. Breathe, I whisper. In for 4. Hold out for 6. Let the warmth fill you. Let the heart slow to the rhythm of drums fading behind the horizon. We sail east now, guided by constellations that glow low and red. The current smooths itself into glass. Along the coast, the mangroves give way to open beach, wide and silver in moonlight. On that beach, another gathering wave. Women kneel where the waves break, their robes pale blue, their arms full of flowers. They sing a song whose refrain is the sound of the tide itself. The goddess who listens is different, yet familiar, another face of the same divinity. They call her by many names, but tonight the shore whispers the oldest, Yamoja, mother whose children are as countless as fish. The moon drops a path of milk across the waves along that shining road. Women in pale blue rise and sway, their movements the grammar of tide. Breathe, I say. In for 4. Hold out for 6. Let the warmth settle in your ribs. Let your shoulders become coastlines, soft and receive. Foam gathers in curving crescents. Shells rattle like little bells. Where the 7th wave breaks, Yamoja steps forward. No tail, not tonight. Only a vast maternity clothed in water and light. Her gown is the color of deep, safe harbors. Her crown is a tide pool rimmed with silver. When she opens her hands, the surf runs forward like children to adore. Mother, the singers murmur, and the word goes barefoot down the beach. Offerings float toward her, white flowers on palm leaf rafts, bowls of fruit, mirrors wreathed in ribbon, small loaves, sweet with honey. A girl releases a string of blue beads and whispers the name of a child not yet conceived. An elder lowers her head and lets the sea take a letter she has written to the dead. A young man sets an oar on the water and asks for the safe return of someone who has not yet left. Yamoja listens as if each gift is the first prayer ever spoken. Sometimes she answers with a small playful wave that laps a devotee's ankles as if to say yes. Sometimes the sea lays the offering back on the sand. No, or not yet, or not this way. The worshippers accept both with laughter and tears together. Because a mother's love is made of both kinds of answer. You feel her regard fall over you, heavy as blessing, light as breath. Child, she says without sound, you are carried. Even when you swim, you are carried. The breakers glow. Somewhere past the bar, dolphins roll like punctuation marks to a sentence the sea is writing for itself. On the breeze, incense, salt, a trace of molasses and smoke. It smells for a heartbeat of a ship with too many chains and too few stars. The singers do not falter. They deepen the chorus, folding sorrow into harmony. Nyx stands at the tide line and speaks softly, so the foam will hear. When people were taken across in darkness, Yamoja went with them as memory. The warm hand in the water. That is why the ocean speaks 2 tongues and means one comfort. The surf answers by smoothing the sand around everyone's feet, as if erasing the outlines of fear. Now the vision widens, and the coast is many coasts at once. On a Brazilian beach, Yamoja, the same mother in a new dress, receives thousands of white roses on the last night of the year. Candlelit boats push through gentle chop. The crowd sings to a horizon peppered with flames. Some flowers return, washed back by a teasing ripple. Some disappear into a path of moonlight. Either way, people laugh and kiss and promise to be kinder. A boy wades out farther than he should, and a wave lifts him, then sets him back as if the ocean herself had stooped to place him on a safer thought. In Cuba and Haiti, La Sierra, Where's Yamoja's calm and Mami Wata's shine, queen of the cool depths, patron of music that sounds like light through water. Drums speak in code, maracas answer with rain. The sea keeps time and grief learns to dance without leave. Back on the West African strand, a devotee kneels, scoops up water and presses it to her forehead. For the ones who crossed, she says, for the ones who could not. The wave that follows breaks in the gentlest possible way. Rest, I tell you. You are under a roof of stars built by mothers. In for 4, hold out for 6. When Yamoja lifts her arms, the shore hushes. The warm pull that holds the moon to us draws tighter. You feel the ocean's age in your bones, not as weight, but as belonging. She smiles, and the night turns the color of forgiveness. Go with my blessing, she says, and the blessing is not a word but a current. Between Zanzibar and Pemba, lanterns swing on late boats. The air tastes of cloves and rain. In the hush between swells, the elders' tales ride easy of Nazmawa Bahari, spirits who like polite company, of jealous sea snakes that coil storms, of an island that sometimes forgets it is land and sinks into the tide to rest. The Indian Ocean opens like a well made of sky. For a moment, the shoreline narrows to a low city of coral stone and carved doors. Dows lean into a night breeze, sweet with spiced tea. A pearl diver sits on the gunwale, fingers wrapped in palm twine, breath held the way prayer holds silence. He drops a dark comma into dark water. Below, the world is green bells and sand-rippled phrases. Then a gloved hand appears, not human, and pauses. The diver feels, without seeing, the courtesy of an ancient presence moving aside, permission granted by a sea that does not hoard her shine. He rises with a shell and an understanding that cannot be told without water. Nyx looks down through the surface as if it were glass laid over a map. Lines of story cross here, she says, motherhood and market, storm and song. Every wave is a translation. Farther offshore, the night thins to silk. The zodiac leans low. The Southern Cross pricks the horizon like a jeweled pin. The water's color deepens from bronze to blue-black to something that might be the original word for blue. Your breath lengthens to match it. Breathe, I whisper, and listen. The next voices are older than kings and gentle as rain on rice fields. We're leaving the continent, but not the care. The current that Yamoja gave us becomes a wide road. Warm wind slides across your face. It smells of cinnamon bark and wet rope, of banana leaves and the white hearts of coconuts, of kitchens still awake long after the children have fallen asleep. The sky lowers kindly, not threatening. The sea flattens into silk under your boat, untouched by hurry. There is a pause, one of those sacred rests in music when the ear leans forward and the heart decides to keep beating. In that pause you feel every mother who ever told a child to sleep, every sailor who ever touched a mast and said, "Be good," every wave that ever forgot to be cruel. The world simplifies to breath and glide. Ahead, the first eastern constellations rise like lanterns, hoisted at a harbor mouth. The horizon carries a hint of lacquered red. A wind from far-off bamboo forests brushes your cheek, carrying incense and the memory of paper prayers tucked under stones near bays, where fishermen still bow before launching. Somewhere, whether on Taiwan's shore, Fujian's coves, or islands that have been renamed many times, a bell rings for Mazu, the sea's vigilant daughter. A dragon's silhouette, long as a river, whiskered with lightning, turns in the deep like a thought being born. Do you feel the change? Nyx asks. It is not colder or warmer, it is a different reverence. She reaches into the water and lifts a handful of moon. When she lets it fall, it becomes pearls. Across this ocean, dragons keep palaces of coral and cloud, she says, smiling. They hold the rain in their sleeves and the monsoon in their throats. They do not hoard, they administer, like your grandfather of the mill pond, but with thunder for a stamp. The mother waters trail behind us like a long blue veil. Their warmth does not fade, it changes shape. What was lullaby becomes ceremony. What was cradle becomes gate. Rest a moment more, I murmur. The sea will carry you, whether you sleep or watch. The next door opens on scales and lantern light. on courtyards of tide-in kings who never learned to stop rain. In for 4, hold out for 6, let the breath thin, cool, lengthen. On the rim of night, pale towers rise that are not towers but clouds stacked by a dragon's hand. Far below, a turtle big as a hill glides toward an address only it knows. The water changes not in color but in intention. You can feel courtesy in it, a kind of formal kindness. The swell bows slightly before the boat. The wind declines to tangle your hair. Now, says Nyx, and the word is a hint. Behind us, Yamoja's song continues for others who have only just arrived to pray. Ahead, somewhere beneath a skin of starlight, a palace roof flashes tile made of mother of pearl in law. We cross the seam between seas without a ripple. Africa breathes out. Asia breathes in. Welcome to the eastern water. The water warms again until it tastes of rain, caught on stone. Air thickens with the smell of jasmine and distant smoke. The sky, once full of African brass, has become lacquer black polished to a mirror's patience. Through it flows a single line of light, the Milky River, the same ribbon the ancient poets called the Silver Stream. Breathe, I whisper, in for 4, hold out for 6. The breath cools, the pulse steadies. Each exhale sounds a little like a tide bowing to itself. Below the surface, something vast turns with the deliberation of ceremony. 2 horns break the moonlight, a pair of polished crescents, and eyes like lanterns open. They are old, but not weary. The dragon king of the eastern sea rises until his whiskers brush the surface. Scales catch moonlight and turn it into green fire. When he speaks, the sound is not heard but felt, like thunder underfoot. Welcome, night one. I keep the rain and the coral gates. Why do you travel with mortals in your wake? To remind them, I answer, that water is a god who forgives slowly and feeds constantly. He laughs, and the bubbles climb like pearls. Then come and see what patience builds. We follow him down. The sea folds open like a curtain of glass beads. At its floor glimmers Ryugujo, the dragon palace walls of coral and crystal, roof tiles shimmering with mother of pearl. Schools of fish drift in choreographed spirals. Every movement writes a syllable of light. Servants with carp tails carry trays of kelp wine. Somewhere, a flute made of shell keeps a melody so soft it could be mistaken for breathing. At the center of the hall sits the dragon king himself, robes of sea silk, crown of jade, eyes that hold every color rain can find. Beside him stands Otohime, daughter of the tides, her hair floating like smoke in slow water. She smiles at us and gestures toward a throne woven of coral and light. This palace, Nyx murmurs to you, is what dreams build when they wish to last. For a while you sit among dragons and time unthreads. Days and centuries fall through each other like sand through clear water. When at last you remember your own breath, the dragon king lifts a golden cup. When you release it, it will return as mercy somewhere above the world. He places the droplet in your palm. It glows once, then seeps into your skin cool as promise. Now a man enters, slender, bewildered, wearing the clothes of a fisherman. He bows too deeply. Gratitude and fear knotted in one gesture. The dragons call him Urashima Taro. He saved a turtle. The turtle brought him here. For him the palace has been 3 days of wonder above centuries have turned. He looks at Otohime with eyes that already miss her. She offers him a small lacquered box. Do not open it, she warns. Keep it closed and you will remember me without pain. He leaves. His shadow fades. Nyx watches the box gleam in his hands as he rises toward the surf. Even paradise, she says, has doors that open only one way. When he reaches the air, the world has forgotten his name. He opens the box, smoke drifts upward, white as forgiveness, and he ages into dust. The sea keeps the echo of his gasp, like a secret folded in silk. Breathe, I tell you. In 2, 3, 4. Hold out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let the lungs rise and fall like that sigh. The Dragon King's court recedes. The water changes hue, emerald to turquoise to the deep blue of patience. The sound of rain follows us though no clouds move above. We are entering rivers that remember mountains instead of oceans. The Naga rivers, heat wraps itself around your shoulders like a shawl. The water smells of soil and sweet rock. We have come to the Mekong, where serpents the color of rust sleep under current. The people here tell of Naga, half serpent, half divine guardians of river and rain. At dusk they breathe out fireballs that rise through the surface, red spheres that vanish into night without smoke. Some call them gas, some miracle. The truth is simple, the Naga are breathing. Their king lies coiled beneath a sandbank crown of lotus, eyes half closed. When Nyx bows, the current stirs. You bring the taste of foreign moons, the Naga says. What lesson do you carry for my waters? That even stillness moves, she replies, and that reverence need not kneel to be true. He smiles, and every ripple around him becomes a prayer answered. These rivers hold kindness. The Naga once sheltered the Buddha himself, spreading their hood to shield him from storm. In return, he taught them calm, the kind that outlives thunder. You can feel that serenity now. Warm rain, wide silence, the smell of new growth. As the current guides us eastward, the water lightens again. The taste of salt creeps back. The horizon opens into the Sea of Japan, where new legends wait. The river warmth thins to salt again. A bell rings from a fogged headland, one clean note that sails above the tide and returns smaller like a bird coming back to the hand. Lanterns lift along a quay, paper skins glowing the mild yellow of good tea. Somewhere a fisherman bows to an altar tucked beneath a roof of red tile and wind chimes. Listen, I murmur. This coast keeps a guardian who hears storms before they are born. Mazu's harbor, mist parts and we see a shrine set close to the sea, its steps polished by 1,000 grateful feet. Incense braids the air. Women in dark jackets and pearl pins tuck paper prayers into cracks between stones. Safe voyage, quick return, good wind. A small procession arrives with wooden dragon shoulders and ribbons, drums talking in patient syllables. The goddess's image passes, the young woman in a red cloak, eyes half closed as if listening to far thunder. A little boy, solemn and sticky with candied haw, presses a paper boat into the ceremonial basin. The water takes it, then rocks it gently back to his hands. His mother laughs into her sleep. Out beyond the breakwater, a freighter sounds its horn. Beyond that, the weather begins to turn, then decides against it. Mazu hears even this, I say. The coast breathes because she does. The drums quiet, wind bells answer small bright. The sea nods approval and opens a road. Breathe, I tell you. In for 4, hold out for 6. Let the breath grow precise, courteous like bow and reply. Ningyo in the moon years. We follow cold, clear water where kelp forests comb the light into narrow ribbons. A shape moves, half silver, half human sadness. Not the jeweled mermaids of warmer stories, but something stranger, scale and hair, and a mouth made for asking. A fisherman once brought such a creature Ningyo to shore. He gave a sliver of its flesh to his daughter by mistake, and she lived centuries. People she loved learned to be fruit that ripens and falls. She remained the branch. She walked through dynasties like a moon that refuses to wane. In the end she became a nun, and folded her years the way a careful woman folds cloth. She no longer needs each crease a blessing. When she died, bells in 3 provinces rang at once, though no one had pulled their ropes. Ningyo watches us now with eyes that look like tide pools holding yesterday's sky. The creature lifts one webbed hand in a gesture that could be farewell or don't make my mistake. Then the sea gathers it back, gentle as a sleeve. Amabi's bright beak. Storm scud passes low and thin rain makes brief punctuation on the surface. In the wake of that hush, a figure steps from the water, feathered hair, beaked mouth, three-finned tail, a lantern held inside the body. Emma, in old years when sickness walked the roads and knocked on every door, she rose from the surf and said, "Draw me, share my face, and you will remember your health back into being." People sketched her on scraps and walls. Hope learned to wear a beak and a smile. Emma B looks left and right as if measuring the horizon for news. She nods to you, small and conspiratorial, then dissolves into rain that never quite reaches the ground. "Blessing can be a picture," I whisper. "We keep what we can carry." The queen of the southern sea. The color of the water warms to jade. The air smells of cloves, lime leaf, and the far-off iron of monsoon. South of Java, the surf rolls in with a heavy shoulder. Reefs gnash their pale teeth in sleep. Along a long pale beach stands a row of empty gazebos, each draped with green silk. No one sits. Everyone waits. A wind like a wide hand smooths the shore, and she arrives. Nyiroro Kadul, queen of the southern sea, dressed in ceremonial green that shifts like fish under sun. Her hair falls to her heels. Her crown is a reef rebuilt for a brow. Ankle bells sing where the foam touches them, and the foam knows its manners. People say she takes those who wear her color too close to the water. Jealousy, warning, mercy. It depends on who tells the tale. But I have watched her since the first palace learned to lean on a cliff. I know a different truth. She protects the line. Land must not boast. Sea must not forget. She keeps the treaty. Tonight she walks the boundary between each footprint, a small bay that fills and disappears. A boy chases her shadow, then stops as if an older version of himself has caught his wrist. A bride places a wreath of jasmine where the wave mouths it away and whispers for fertility that feels like rain. Nyiroro Kadul turns to us. Her eyes carry a depth even dragons respect. "Do not mistake invitation for ownership," she says. "You may dance at the edge, but you do not own the floor." She lifts her hand. Far offshore, a line of white breaks, then kneels. The sea bows back. We bow too, and the air grows easier. "Breathe," I say. "In for 4. Hold out for 6. Let your breath learn ceremony. Enter with respect. Leave with gratitude." She smiles once. The kind of smile cliffs remember, and becomes mist lifted by a stronger thought. Gate of islands. Beyond Indonesia, the map loosens into archipelagos. Beads spilled from a necklace, coral atolls flat as spilled milk. Volcanoes smoking like old stories. Lagoons that hold a morning in place until afternoon forgets to hurt. The moon rises twice as large as you remember. The stars seem closer, not because they are, but because you are finally looking in the right language. We are moving toward a horizon where the word ocean changes shape. Toward canoes long as songs, sails like wings, men and women who read water the way others read scripture. There is a hush here, the kind you make before opening a gift that already knows your name. "Do you feel it?" I ask. The sea is about to become ancestry. We pass a turtle that has learned patience from islands and a manta ray that flies the slow cursive of shadow just beneath us. Under the hull, reefs appear. Gardens kept by parrotfish and the water is ink blue at the edges and bottle green in the shallows. The same colors old navigation charts wear when they dream. Ahead, a canoe rides the swell as easily as a gull sits on wind. Its hull is narrow, its outrigger a careful thought reaching for balance. Its sail a triangle of woven pandanus that has studied how clouds move and decided to agree. A woman at the stern keeps one hand in the water, fingers reading temperature, texture, tiny pushes, the alphabet of current. A boy lies belly down in the bow, star map pricked into his memory like points in a night he is not afraid to enter. An elder watches the sky, which is not above but around, and names the routes by families. The sea roads that our bodies remember even if our cities do. I lift the horizon with 2 fingers and pull it a little closer. "Come," I say. This is where the song becomes the sea itself. We draw alongside. The crew does not startle. They have learned to expect gods the way other people expect weather. The elder nods at Nyx with the courtesy of a host meeting a traveler who has slept in his house before. He taps the hull twice. The canoe hums. "Where are you going?" I ask. To a place that will be our grandchildren, he answers simply, and smiles. The fade into the Pacific. Now the water opens until there is nothing to measure it by except your own calm. The sky completes itself. The constellations reorder into canoe and shark and bird path. The Milky Way is not a river anymore but a road, white and shore. Clouds line up like village. Swells arrive in groups that have come from so far away they have forgotten their beginnings and remember only their direction. Palms on distant Moto lean all one way, confessing the wind's genealogy. Breathe, I whisper. In 2, 3, hold out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Match the long back of the swell, become it. Be carried. Behind us dragons settle in their palaces, satisfied that order holds. Ningyu swims a circle that does not need to close. Amabi smiles from a child's drawing taped to a door. Mazu extinguishes one incense stick and lights another. Nairoro Kidul walks the edge until edge becomes idea and idea becomes law. Ahead another presence waits, less person than principal. Tangaroa, older than the first canoe, younger than the first word for love. In these waters the ocean is not a monster or a mother alone. It is an ancestor that breathes through bone and sail, a teacher with a single lesson taught with infinite patience. Look, listen, feel, remember. A soft chanting begins. No instruments, only breath and syllable, the voices of navigators counting swells and angles, and the time it takes in exile to become a return. The sound wraps the boat the way the night wraps islands when the fire is low, and the child finally sleeps. Now I tell you, let go of maps that have borders. Keep only the ones with stars. The swell lifts. The canoe rises to the pitch and does not argue. Salt beads on your lips and tastes like commitment. The elder points to a low smear of cloud that looks like a smudge from a thumb on wet paint. Land, he says, though there is none to see. The sea tells him what the eye will only later admit. Warm wind rises from that direction, delivering the smell of flowers you have not yet met. Nyx looks forward with you. Her hair has learned the curve of the moon. Her voice drops to the softness of a palm on a sleeping child's back. This is where your breathing becomes the tide. This is where the ocean sings you. The chant deepens, becomes a hum, becomes your pulse. The stars line the road and do not move. The canoe slides down the long shoulder of a swell and climbs the next as if steps, as if a staircase laid by ancestors who promised to hold their hands out forever. We cross the seam between Asia and the blue emptiness that is actually fullness. Behind us a bell from Mozu's Kwai gives one last diminutive note. Ahead the night tastes of breadfruit and rain. Welcome to the wide Pacific, to Tangaroa's world, to islands that walk, to songs that are canoe. The ocean opens like a pupil. No coasts, no harbors, only the living blue, breathing in miles. The sky leans down until it is almost the same color as the water, and the seam between them is a thought you have not decided to finish. Beneath, the long backs of swells pass like the ribs of some vast creature asleep but listening. Breathe, I say. In for 4, hold out for 6. Let your lungs learn the swell's patience. Let your ribs become the ocean's quiet shell. The sea here is not merely water. It is Tangaroa, older than the first canoe, younger than the first lullaby, father and field and road. When he speaks, he does not speak in words. He speaks in the direction of wind, and the shapes of clouds, and the way a wave lifts its head before it travels. He speaks in the white flashes of flying fish, and the low surge of dolphins at the bow. When you have chosen your course correctly, he speaks in warmth that travels just above the surface, like a remembered hand. The water hums once, and the hum becomes form. A shadow rises, not to break but to be known. The old god of ocean, as big as a horizon's thought, hair braided with currents, eyes like quiet storms. When Tangaroa looks at you, it feels like listening. Night, he rumbles, not a sound, a certainty. You have brought a traveler. I have brought someone who remembers breath, I answer, and who wishes to learn distance. The sea nods with a rounded swell that lifts and sets without hurry. Far off, an outrigger canoe tilts and rights itself against the long-run swell as easily as a gull shapeshifts wind. The crew know the road that has no signposts. They sit with backs straight and eyes soft, reading what cannot be written. We draw alongside. The canoe's hull is narrow as intention, its outrigger a thought extended for balance, its lashings singing a small rope song. The sail is a triangle sewn of pandanus, smelling faintly of sun and salt. An elder at the stern holds the steering paddle not like a tool but like a hand in an elder's hand. A boy at the bow lies prone, his chest against wood, his face close to the water, feeling the tiny tap of the bow wave and letting it tell him what the next minute wants. A woman midships trails her fingers and counts, not numbers but swells, the long one from the east, the shorter from far south, the choppy messenger from last week's storm. She adds them like kin and names their ancestors. They do not look lost, because there is nothing here that is not a landmark. Clouds pile where islands sweat their heat into the sky, flat-bottomed, high-topped. Birds commit to a line low over the water and then vanish upward, which means land by afternoon. The underside of the clouds reflects a green the sky cannot explain. That color lives only above shallow lagoons. A single booby circles, tests the air with its wings, then flies with the assurance of someone headed home. Look, I whisper and place the sky in your palm. I draw a ring around us, the star compass, invisible but felt, houses of wind, doorways made of light. To the east lie the teeth of dawn, where stars are born into usefulness. To the west, a road where names go to rest. North is a bright fishhook, south a sharp canoe of fire. Every rising place is a direction, every setting a promise to be continued tomorrow night. The navigators say the stars do not move. We do around a bowl whose rim is lit. If you learn the bowl, you learn yourself. The elder hums a chant, the old one with words the canoe knows. Stars stand, swell runs, heart stays, bird path, cloud mark, foam sign. Steer by the long one, steady by the small. Ancestor, accompany. The chant is not music alone. It is geometry and devotion. With each line the canoe trims an inch of doubt. The boy at the bow nods in time with the long swell. The woman midships answers with a second rhythm. The undercurrent from a storm, 5 days gone. Her fingers write that information into her spine. The elder's paddle gives the hull the smallest persuasion, and the canoe glides like agreement. Tangaroa watches and approves. In the way seas approve, a flying fish breaks at the bow and lands where it can be saved for breakfast. A shearwater skims so close its wingtip writes a thin silver line on the skin of the night. Far below, whales pass, carrying songs that turn and turn until they are round as the moon. The sea offers a line of phosphorescence that clings to the wake and becomes a soft lit sentence behind us. You were here, you are going. Breathe, I murmur. In 2, 3, 4. Hold out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let the shoulder blades grow heavy and warm. Let the jaw slacken. Let the tongue rest soft as a palm leaf. The elder touches the rim of a small basket at his knee. Inside lie shells and stones, sticks tied together into a memory of waves that once crossed each other and tried to go on speaking. He hands the basket to the boy. Chart, he says, and the boy, without looking down, touches each stick by feel, each curl of senet by habit, each shell by the name of the atoll that gifted it. He is not reading the map to find the way, he is reading the map to greet the way when it arrives. Ahead the sea changes shade, the way a mind changes mood. The night softens, the stars bend closer. Tangaroa lifts one hand, and the wind obediently veers a finger with The sail fills with a deeper confidence. A line of cloud along the starboard horizon glows on its underside, not with lightning, but with something steadier, land light, held in lagoon water reflecting back to the sky it learned from. You do not see the island yet, but the sky does. The sky is telling you if you listen. Tonight, I say, we will learn a different kind of fishing. The elder hears me though I have not spoken aloud. He smiles like a man who knows a story has chosen him. The woman midships tightens a knot with her teeth, and the sound is the little click that begins a tale. They sing softly, names more than words, verbs that do not belong to one grammar alone. Tangaroa carry, Hina hush, wind lean, stars steady, Maui rise. A line of shadow appears under the keel that is not reef and not whale, and not doubt. It moves with intent. The air smells faintly of wet rock that has never seen sun. Maui does not arrive. He emerges as if he were always and only the world deciding to remember itself. He is not large in the way mountains are large. He is large in the way decisions are. His hair remembers storms. His arms remember nets. His eyes remember distance made into. He stands at the canoe's quarter like a second mast, grinning as if the horizon were a joke he has told and never tired of. "I Maui tiki tiki a taranga," the elder says, and the canoe inclines as if kneeling. Maui nods to the boy, to the woman, to the elder, to the ocean, as if he were greeting himself in many moods. He reaches beneath the thwarts and brings up a hook. It is carved from jawbone, a pale curve with appetite built into its shaft. The lashing is hair, the line is senet, twisted from the stubbornness of generations. The hook is not hungry, it is purpose given a shape. "Fish then," Maui says, and his voice is unembarrassed joy. He casts the hook into the mind of the sea. The line falls and falls, past the cold blue where sharks rehearse patience, past the green where turtles sign their names on sand, past the dark where lights grow on fish like thoughts that have learned to glow. The hook does not snag, it chooses. Something answers, not an animal, not a thing. A continent of sleep shifts and opens one eye. Maui sets his feet against the outrigger beam and leans back, arms cording, back curved like a bow. The canoe becomes a comma in the sentence of his effort. The crew brace, woman at the sheets, boy at the bowline, elder with the paddle turning into lever and prayer. The line tightens, until it sings a note you feel in your teeth. The ocean flexes. The swells stop pretending they are not watching. Tangaroa smiles with half his mouth. With the other half he whispers, careful. Maui pulls. From the deep something rises that is not a fish and not a mountain, yet is both and more. A land that has never been named. It comes up like a chest remembered in a story, like a word finally within reach of the tongue. First a spear of black rock breaks the surface. Steam, then another, then a ridge, then a shoulder. Barnacles bloom into cliffs. Coral dreams itself into reef. Sand runs down the new flanks like gold learning how to lie still. The sea, surprised into generosity, drapes foam around the edges as if hemming a robe in ceremony. Maui laughs, a sound like oars striking water after long stillness. "Hold her," he calls, and the crew do not ask how. They haul on lines that are nothing like the lines of sails. A grammar of belief, the physics of store. The boy at the bow grits his teeth and feels the hook's song climb his bones. The woman midships digs her heels against the thwart and sings counter melody. So the new island will learn to breathe above the surface. The elder's paddle becomes a law. He levers the canoe's weight into the rock. Land breaches. A headland snorts steam. A valley exhales the first cool of its first night. In the new lagoon, fish arrive with the speed of rumor. Birds wheel from nowhere, claiming ancestral rights at the tops of trees that have not yet grown. The sky blushes, as if embarrassed to have waited so long. Tangaroa's eyes crinkle with a pride he will not admit. He is after all the sea, and the sea is older than all arrivals, even those he loves. Maui sets the line, not to trap but to tether the idea to the world. Have you learned, he asks, and he is not mocking, that distance can become home? The elder says, chest heaving like a small island in a big tide, that a hook can be a promise. The woman says and smooths the line with her palm, that I want to see it in the morning. The boy says, which is the truest prayer. He bites the line, not to sever but to set the knot on a tooth. Only he has, and the knot holds beyond any storm that will come. He laughs again, then becomes the next swell, and the next, until he is not a person at all but a way the ocean chooses to move when it is making something. Breathe, I whisper, because this is the moment when excitement might steal the calm you earned. In 2, 3, 4, hold out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let the new island rest where it has surfed. Let your heartbeat match the lagoon beginning to find itself. The canoe floats in a circle of quiet water, the way a cradle floats in a room where someone has learned silence. The crew slacken the sheets and let the sail idly agree with the least wind. The elder lifts his face and thanks no one, and everyone in a language that does not need a listener to be heard. Night lays a warm hand on the newborn shoreline. The sand turns the color of a thought that has completed itself. In the shallows, tiny lights pulse, phosphorescence answering stars one for one. The reef lifts its polyps to feed like a field of mouths. From far out, a long even swell continues to arrive, the breath of a weather forgotten by the place where it began. It folds itself around the new shape, teaching it the steps that every land must know. Be hit, be held, be shaped, be strong. Tangaroa speaks again, and this time you hear him like a sound inside your bones. Everything you are is a voyage, he says. Even sleep is travel, even rest is a road. The woman midships leans back and closes her eyes. The elder sets the steering paddle down and lets it become simply wood. The boy looks toward the not yet visible trees, and yawns as if he has invented the best way to say yes to darkness. You have learned the star roads, I tell you softly. You have watched an island be caught and kept. You have listened to the ocean speak in its older grammar. Above us, the Milky Way tilts, aligning itself to a course that leads away from names and into something soft. The breath of the crew slows. The canoe drifts in the lee of the fresh-made land. A pale bird lands on the outrigger and sleeps on one leg, absolutely sure of physics and grace. Rest, I say. The sea will keep the watch. In for 4. Hold out for 6. And as the last wind of the long day combs the sail with gentle teeth, the night prepares its broader lesson, the one in which the ocean stops being merely place and becomes dream, and invites you to sink into it without fear. The new island breathes, a slow, surprised rhythm, while the reef counts its first hours aloud in tiny snaps. The canoe rocks in that cradle of quiet water. Every few heartbeats a small wave toddles in, and learns how to become shore. Breathe, I whisper. In for 4. Hold out for 6. Let the inhale be warm sand, the exhale a tide unwinding its braid. Dawn does not rush. It thinks about it, then paints a faint apricot seam under the dark. The elder wakes without moving, his eyes open in the exact way the lagoon does, glossy cert. The woman midships winds a strand of pandanus hair twine around the cleat and hums a note that makes the hull agree with the day. The boy scrubs salt from his face with a laugh that belongs to whoever names first. They step ashore at last. The sand is cool with night's memory. It squeaks under heel like a secret told kindly. They leave footprints that the island reads the way a newborn reads touch. Oh, the woman plants a stick at the high tide line and ties a ribbon of sinnet there, so the sea will know where the conversation should pause. The elder lays a fish gift in the wash and says gratitude without using the word. The boy picks up a shell and holds it to his ear. The shell, surprised to be reminded so soon, whispers the ocean's name right back. Under a crooked, not yet tree, they lay a small hearth of coral stones and boil water that tastes like stars cooled into soup. A bird whose species has not yet been argued over lands. cocks its head, decides we are plausible and sings a 5-note scale that turns the air into friendly grammar. At the lagoon mouth, Tangaroa makes himself narrow so that he can lean in close. His eyes soften the way waves do when they've agreed to lap rather than strike. You understand, the ocean says again, not sound but a steadiness in the wind. That making is keeping. Keep what you have made by listening to. The elder nods. The woman lays her palm on the sand. The boy places the shell back where he found it, a gesture that grows the island by a hairbreadth of goodness. Maui's hook now sleeps in a pocket in the reef, its lashing inhabited by tiny fish who believe it is a plant that remembers jokes. If you listen, you can hear the hook dreaming, not greedily, but like a craftsman who loves work done and work to do. The sun arrives with ceremony, a drum rolled in gold. As it steps over the horizon, the sea brightens from ink to cobalt to a blue so certain it could teach courage. Far out, long swells continue to arrive from a weather far older than this morning. They bend around the new land like elders making space for a child in the circle. Look, I say. The star roads are still visible even in daylight. I show you how the wind draws faint paths upon the water. Cats pause here, a slick there, lines that navigators read with skin. The woman closes her eyes and turns her face. The corners of her mouth tell us what the nose has already counted: warm breeze off land at mid-morning, sea breath in the afternoon, and in between, the no wind that is not silence but listen. They launch again when the sun is high enough to stop being shy. The outrigger kisses the lagoon's lip. The canoe slides through the pass, where the reef breaks its long white smile into teeth and then laughs itself to foam. Beyond, the swells enlarge until the hull sits within their ribs like a note inside a drum. The crew keep easy watch. The elder checks the sun with his fingers. The boy counts birds. The woman braids cord for another day. I dip a finger into the wake and taste brightness. Where now, you ask? And the question is not a demand but a hand held out to fate. Toward the open that remembers everything, I answer. The ocean has a last lesson and then sleep. Tangaroa lowers his great head until his whiskers write on the sea's surface in silver. The drawn lines expand into a pattern. The canoe can sit inside circles within circles like ripples if ripples knew trigonometry. To the dreaming ocean he says, the place where all stories become tide. We travel not by distance but by surrender. The sky turns the tender blue that teacups use when they have been loved for generations. Clouds shape themselves into islands and then remain islands, even when the eye learns the trick. Flying fish practice the future near the dolphins who have already learned it escort us anyway because joy has no appointments. Breathe, I murmur. In 2, 3, 4. Hold out 2, 3, 4. 5. With each exhale loosen something you do not need: a small hurriedness, a worry whose leash you've been holding for years, a name you answer to when alone. The sea grows taller without becoming threatening, like a cathedral that manages kindness. The canoe takes the slopes without complaint. Beneath, a blue so deep it might be the original vowel opens and opens. I show you the wave families, the long one from the east, the shorter from south, the shy ripple from far north. They cross without quarrel. The hull translates. The crew nod along. The boy naps between swells as if the ocean had a leash he trusts. Tangaroa's shadow passes under us like an enormous manta ray. He is not leaving, he is making room. A haze appears ahead, no color, only a change in the idea of distance. The air cools the tiniest degree. Not with cold but with time. Sound opens in the middle like a book you always meant to finish. Here, I say, and the word is felt in the soles of your feet, where the Pacific remembers every other sea, and teaches them how to sing the same song. The canoe slows without slackening, like breath at the threshold of sleep. The sail softens. The elder eases the paddle into the water and it becomes instrument rather than tool. The woman sets her braid in her lap and closes her eyes. The boy laughs once in his dream and turns his face toward the shade. You realize the glow is not fish, it is stories. a phosphorescent archive written by tides and kept by patience. Greek sirens' harmonies unfurl pale gold threads. Nereids spin them until they are ropes of rescue. Norse wave daughters lift green veils and let them fall. Scylla roars once and then lays her heads down like watchdogs. Charybdis opens and closes, the world's oldest bellows steadier now. The Celtic Selkie laughs, a bubble of light that darts toward the surface and becomes a gull's cry. The Marrow's red cap flashes like a boy on a child's map. A blue man claps water that throws off jokes in sparks. The Vedianoi tucks a jar into a sill of silt and lights it with one good breath. Arasaka's comb leaves silver ripples that never fully fade. Yamaya folds blankets of warmth over the cold bed. Mami Wada checks the mirror and adjusts you into truer symmetry. La Sirene ties a bow on a note and sends it across. Niai Raro Kiddle draws a green line and the whole ocean obeys its edge without resentment. Dragon kings administer the rain. Mazu harvests it at the harbor with steady hands. Niaio's caution shines like a prayer. Amabi smiles, the kind of smile a town can live on. Naga dream coils that hug the Buddha from weather. Mayo's hook sleeps and hums. All of it glows within Tangaroa's body like bones seen kindly by the moon. You see, there was never more than one ocean, only one song played on many shores. The elder sets the paddle along the gunwale and rests his hands, palms up. The woman leans her forehead to the mast. The boy wakes just enough to ask, "Are we there?" and answers himself by falling asleep. "Rest," I whisper. The next lesson is sleep itself. A breeze arrives carrying the smell of breadfruit and a ghost of rain. The canoe rolls it along its spine to you and you keep it. The swells lengthen as if the ocean were remembering how long it can be. Even the birds quiet. We are entering the dreaming ocean now, which is not a place but a practice. In it, the Pacific opens small doors inside your breath, one into warmth, one into weightlessness, one into a room where every voice you ever loved becomes water against rock. Breathe, I say, last cue of the waking chapter. In 2, 3, 4, hold out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tangaroa lifts his hand, a gesture that darkens the sky from porcelain to indigo, and the first stars take their assigned seat. The Milky Way pulls a white road tight from horizon to horizon. The swell evens to a metronome the heart recognizes. Night, the sea murmurs to me, "I will keep them." "You always do," I answer. I lay my palm on the surface and feel the blue reach up like a child asking to be carried. The canoe slides along the star road without making sound. The crew's breathing finds the lowest register of calm. Close your eyes, I tell you. You are already The horizon softens until it is no longer a line but a pillow. The last detail you notice is the way the wake shines, the exact color of forgiven things. Now the story does what the sea does when it loves, it rocks. Now the body learns what distance knew all along to arrive by resting. The sea lowers its voice. Swell by swell the Pacific arranges the night into longer phrases, fewer commas. The canoe rocks once to the left, once to the right, and then holds like a cradle that has found a child's exact rhythm. Far below, blue gathers into velvet. Above, the Milky Way draws a white road and promises to keep it open. Breathe, I whisper, in for 4, hold out for 6. Let the breath become the boat. Let the boat become the breath. On the floor of the ocean, archives glow. Soft constellations of all the stories you have carried. A gold thread of Greek lament unwinds and braids itself with the green hush of the north. Celtic laughter rubs shoulders with Slavic reeds. Mother waters lift a warm shawl. Dragons set the cups of rain carefully back on their saucers. The queen of the southern sea redraws the edge, and the whole world agrees to be coastline again. Tangaroa spreads his hands, and the swells learn the meaning of enough. Listen closely. There is no border here. What you took for separation was only distant singing harmony. Breathe, I murmur again, slower now. In 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
With each exhale, the body forgets one task it does not need to keep. With each inhale, a tide returns that no longer has to ask permission. The canoe drifts on the star road. The elder's paddle sleeps along the gunwale. The woman's braid rests in a loose coil like rope that knows the knot can. The boy's hand dangles over the side. Phosphorescence gathers around his fingers as if they were small moons. The ocean begins its last lesson. How to be carried. It starts not with words but with weight. Pleasant. Your shoulders go warm and heavy as if the night has tucked sandbags into your muscles to ask them kindly not to rise again. Your jaw loosens. The space between your eyebrows smooths the way a lake smooths after a breeze. Forgets itself. The tongue lies soft against the palate. The eyes cool beneath their lids as if sea breeze had learned to live there. In 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. The breath lengthens until it fits the long back of the swell now. The sea speaks in images that do not need names. An empty chapel bell lying in river silt that rings once each spring just to remember. A Selkie's eyes which are departure and home in the same look. A blue-bearded joke clapping spray, leaving you grinning with no one to explain it to. A poem's glint beneath a willow, hair like dark water and patience. White roses stuttering through Brazilian surf, some returning, some accept. A green line a queen drew, which the tide never crosses without bowing. A red cap rediscovered and forgiveness traveling with it, even as it leaves. A dragon palace window showing rain that has not yet fallen and mercy that will. A beaked smile that towns once drew to remember hell. A hooked curve of bone that lifted islands and the sound it made in the hands that trusted it. An elder's chant that rearranged the sky into a map you could read with your ribs. All of it moves through you like moonlight learning the shape of your breathing. Breathe, I say soft. In 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. A price of. If a thought returns, a practical pebble, a tomorrow, it goes to the back of the boat and watches the wake. It does not steer. The ocean has taken the oar. Tangaroa rises as far as he needs. No more. His shadow passes under us, an enormous manta of calm. When he speaks, the water lifts your chest the exact amount required to understand. Sleep is a tide, he says. Let it take the shore from your muscle. Let it return with birds. When you wake, the canoe answers by creaking once. The sound timber makes when it agrees with physics and grace. The stars answer by standing still. Now the night begins its count, not numbers but weight. I keep it for you. 1. The wave that lifts the ankles and tells the feet they have done enough. 2. The wave that smooths the calves and returns a little warmth it borrowed at noon. 5. The wave that warms the belly, a small hearth retaining coals. 6. The wave that loosens the back vertebra by vertebra, as if the sea were unbuttoning a dress of F. 7. The wave that releases the shoulders, where the day likes to live without paying rent. 8. The wave that softens the throat, you can swallow without thinking about the word responsible. 9. The wave that cools the face, like a hand dipped in moonlight. 10. The wave that closes the eyes from the inside. In 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. We go on. 11. A long wave that reaches the little places, fingers, toes, the edge of each ear and says, you may stop listening outward now. 12. A wave that runs through the pots and picks up the sharp corners, creams them smooth, stacks them like shells and leaves them for morning pretty and harmless. 13. A wave that gathers the day's voices into one faraway choir that knows when to 14. A wave that spreads, like a dark sail, over whatever fear tried to sneak aboard. 15. A wave that is not a wave at all but a door onto a room where the ocean waits, not as water but as blue quiet. We let that one linger. Your breath goes quiet enough to hear the little clicks of shrimp in a reef you cannot see. Your heartbeat learns the patience of whales. The elder is asleep, hands open. The woman sits upright, the way guardians do, but her head has bowed and her mouth carries a small smile that says she has been relieved by something she trusts. The boy dreams of a shoreline that recognizes his step. Everything that needs doing can wait on the other side of dawn. I say, you can reach it then by boat. Tonight you drift, and drifting is work the ocean does for you. Now the dreaming ocean opens, not outward but inward. You stand without standing on the floor of a lagoon that is not made of water. It is made of memory. Sand fine as sleep, lit from beneath by the promises you kept to yourself without telling anyone. Your footsteps leave sentences and the tide edits them kindly. Around you, reefs bloom with little lamps. A promise you kept to a friend last winter. A kindness you did not advertise. The name you did not say when anger asked for it. Tiny fish carry these lights back and forth and grow unafraid of your anger. Overhead, the white road of stars is reflected perfectly, but the reflection is the original, and the sky is the copy. You can lift your hand and rearrange constellations. They consent to be where you need them. Breathe, you do. The lagoon breathes with you.
All the voices of the world's waters return softly, respectfully, each offering their last, kindest version of themselves. If you are still with me, only if you may hear this gentle closing. Thank you for sailing with me across the world's waters tonight. If this voyage found you, if one shore or story placed a hand over your heart, turn the temple whenever you wish. There will always be a lantern lit for you on the quay of night. If you'd like to journey again, or if a certain sea is calling your name, subscribe to the Temple of Nyx and tell me which part whispered loudest. Greece, the north, the Selkie Cove, the Willow Pond, the Mother Waters, the Dragon Palaces, or Tangaroa's star roads. Your voice helps me steer. Now I'll leave you with the ocean's own silence. A long, even swell, a sky stitched with patient light, a boat that is also breath. Good night, beloved traveler. Sleep deep, dream blue.